Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast.
Man, here we are back again. This is like CUP, what is this? It's the happening edging of the fucking lifetime with all this fucking bullshit going on. My name's Josh, here today with Adam.
Greetings, salutations.
And I know I titled this episode Black Monday 2.0, but we'll get into why I did that in a minute. But before we do that, if you want to listen to all our other podcasts, you can go to GameRageMagazine.com. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at GameRageMagazine, Twitter/X at GameRageMag. You can also follow us on the YouTube, where everything is conveniently located for your listening pleasure. Game Rage Magazine on YouTube. Adam's at All Gas No Trash Official, and you should do yourself a favor. If you like music, go check out the All Gas No Trash podcast, which is conveniently located at all the places I just talked about.
Or if you hate music.
That's true. Or if you hate music. True story.
Is it time for humans to start cracking each other's skulls and feasting on the goo inside?
It may be. It may be. I don't know if it's quite the time yet, but it's coming ever nearer, I feel. So I titled this Black Monday 2.0, and so with a question mark. Obviously, Black Monday can never happen again. And for those of you...
No, hold on. Don't ever say that, because then it might actually...
It can't happen again. They put in place things that prevent it from happening, such as... Don't knock on wood. The Black Monday, for those of you that don't know, in 1987, the stock market crashed. Now, it wasn't necessarily as bad as like 1929, but it was on a Monday and everything fucking fell apart. The stock market dropped 20%. It lost 20% of its value in a single day.
A black swan event.
Across the globe. It wasn't just here, it was everywhere. So what they did after this was they put into place some preventative measures so this could never happen again. And so it's so great how, they had a bad day, and then they're like, you know what? How can we legalize it so that this never happens again to protect all of our money, let's protect all this rich guy money? Let's make it so that this can't happen again. So that's what they did. They put in these things called circuit breakers, is what they're referred to as, which essentially, a circuit breaker, if you overload, your electrical system, you will pop the circuit. And that's so that it doesn't fry all your other fucking electronics. It pops the circuit and it shuts everything off. So the stock markets have this circuit breaker in place where every exchange is, I think, a little different, but for the majority, it's around between 5 and 6%. If the stock market of choice loses between 5 and 6% of its value during a single day of trading, automatically trading is halted. It's halted for like 2 or 3 hours, and they say, okay, let's wait. And then they say, all right, let's flip it back on after a couple hours and see where it goes. If it loses another, I think, 3 to 4%, they stop it again. And they say, all right, we're shutting it down for the day. The Goyim know we're shutting it down. Let's fucking, let's stop this. So it's Sunday evening here where we're at on the West Coast, which it's already been morning in Japan. Japan and Korea were the first markets that opened in terms of the beginning of the week for Monday, right? So the Korean Kospi and the Japanese Nikkei markets opened, and they opened to immediately shedding 5.5% of their value. So great. Circuit breakers kicked in and they shut everything down. Currently, I don't know what time it is exactly there, but like the Nikkei is down 8.5%. So it's lost 3,000 points in fucking stock market value.
Oh shit. What is the yen? What is the yen's value to US dollars? Is it like 1,000 to 1?
I don't know, man. I have to look at that. I don't know if it's that bad yet. The Kospi is down 7.5%. Okay, that's the Korean one. Their cap's not high. So like the Nikkei's 32,795. They lost 3,100 points off. The Kospi's only 2,400 and it's lost 200 points. But like it doesn't matter necessarily the number of points. It's the percentage, right? Yeah. It's the percentage of value that's lost. That's in the Asian markets. All of the Asian markets are in the red. Everything's down basically. What's ironic is the Shanghai market's up 0.1%, and the
By what? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. The China and the Shenzhen is up 0.27, 0.16.
That's got to be a lie.
Well, I don't think it's a lie. I think it's indicative of the world looking to what's about to happen. And as we were talking about earlier, the stock market is completely based on fear. It's never based on fact.
Human emotion.
It's all emotional. And as much as these traders want to say that they're analytical and do this, no. If one guy starts selling off shit, everybody goes, "Oh shit, we gotta sell everything. Hit the button, bitch. Sell it all."
Bank run.
And so that's kind of what's happening right now. Our U.S. Markets, the futures, are down basically. They don't have percentages on here, but I mean, our implied open is going to be down 300 points on the Dow, 100 points on the S&P 500.
Good fucking Lord.
It looks like 694 points on the NASDAQ is supposed to be the implied open. Well, 700 is the implied open down. And that's just when it opens. So this Monday's not looking good. It's not looking good for stocks. Also, crypto has been getting its ass handed to it today because, as you were saying earlier, that's like the first thing people get out of.
Yeah, because it's like speculative. It's not real. It's not tangible. I mean,
Right.
It's not real in the sense that compared to other things like stocks and mutual fund index funds, even fucking God damn it, what's the thing where you throw money at the government?
Oh, bonds?
Bonds and shit.
Yeah.
Those would be safer bets, but even then, it's like nobody's going to throw their money into any of those things right now because if anybody's going to do anything, it's going to be to hold on to cash.
Yeah, I mean, essentially all of the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin offshoots, like Bitcoin Gemini, Bitfinex, all these weird fucking things, they're all down double-digit percentages right now, over 10%. Bitcoin proper is down 11.25%. It's lost $6,600 and it's continuing to decline.
What's it at right now?
It's at 52,538 is what it's at right now.
Ah, shit. I mean, it's seen worse. I mean,
It's
went
seen
down
much
to-
worse.
At one point, it was at 18,000 when during the pandemic, I think, or even coming out of it.
Right. So, I mean, it's seen worse, but the fact that people are starting to sell off, it's indicative, again, of this weird fear mechanic that's going on. So,
All right. I don't want to get all conspiracy theory, but I really do believe that this might be more telling of a possible, I don't know if we're already in a war state, but a status of war itself, but maybe there is growing fears of just things unraveling with whatever's going on in the Middle East to the point that people are just pulling their money out and holding on to it to see what's going to happen with like international markets and here in the U.S., I suppose.
yeah, and I think that this is...
Don't do it, Cooper. Don't do it, Rexy.
Oh, what a dick. He just pissed on my sandal. Duke, get out of there. I think it's indicative of... Duke, get out of there. I think it is, like you said, it's indicative that people are postulating that we are going to enter into a war, a major war in the Middle East right now, and that war is not, which I have been saying, is not going to be localized to just the Middle East. That, sure, that conflict between Iran and Israel will stay there, but it's going to open the door for China to start doing stuff. It's going to open the door for Russia to continue pushing forward into Ukraine and potentially even into Eastern Europe. So if we're committed, this is the commitment right now. If we commit to this in the Middle East with help in Israel, which honestly, I fucking have no idea where we're at with that. Because
it's 50-50.
it's really fit. Cooper back. It's 50-50 if we're going to actually fully commit to backing up Israel. And I don't think we can fully commit to backing up Israel because we need resources everywhere else to stop all this other shit that's going to happen. So,
I mean, the only, I don't want to say the only other time, but the other time in which other stock markets started plummeting like this was during when Ukraine and Russia, when that war got started.
yeah.
Everything started to get fucked with.
Right, yeah.
So here we are again. And not to say it's the exact same situation, but it does feel like it's in tandem or in lockstep or in a parallel path, I think.
Yeah, and So I think that the fueling of this is, and the fueling of these markets having all these issues right now is being based on the rumor of obviously this thing between Iran and Israel. And there have been some updates with that. Earlier today, the Jordanian foreign minister went to Tehran and met with the Iranian acting foreign minister. Okay. And I said, you see this picture of them, and like they're doing that like weird handshake thing, and they're standing there. The Jordanian guy looks like he's completely fucking miserable, and the Iranian guy's like, he's like giving a thumbs up, like smiling, and the dude's just deadpan. The other guy's just like deadpan, looking like nothing.
Shake my hand.
So yeah, dude, get out of there. So I don't know if that's indicative of like that's a problem, because the Jordanians basically before declared and said that they are going to be defending Israel, essentially, or they're going to shoot down anything that comes through their airspace. The Iranians then put out a thing saying any Arab nation that assists Israel in any way, even shooting down missiles that go through their airspace, you will make yourself a legitimate target for us. That's what they said.
What do you think if it's not so much that they're defending Israel, but more so that they're non-pro-Israel, so they're neutral, slightly tilting on pro-Israel because of what you were saying in the past week about how they receive military hardware from the U.S. That would sway their opinion, but maybe they're not so plus on Israel itself either.
They're definitely not plus on Israel, but they also don't want to piss us off. That's the only thing that's been kind of keeping them around and helping. I do think that now that the Iranians are starting to position themselves to be the new top dog in the Middle East, which that's what's going to happen here. It's going to go one of two ways. They're going to fight, and then either Israel's going to win or Iran's going to win. Oh, I guess Israel meaning us, because obviously we're going to assist, especially if they're facing some sort of crisis. Also, this is not a good sign, in my opinion. The Russians over the last 2 days have been sending a multitude of IL-76 transport cargo aircraft to Tehran. They have been just sending them with impunity, and some of the reports are that they have loaded up a multitude of Iskander missile systems, which are a vehicle-borne, it's like that 8-wheeled fucking giant vehicle that has this like big-ass missile on it. The Iskander missile system is capable of carrying a nuclear payload. So there is the possibility that if Iran does have nuclear weapons, now they have a missile system to deliver them.
Fuck, how is that even possible? There's no way. I mean, I know they had North Korea and Russia. There's some kind of a meeting that was held in North Korea, unless North Korea is supplying them shit. Because they have to be depleted at this point, facing Ukraine with all the shit that they've been throwing at that. They can't be.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing that what the Russians did, once they saw they were fucking up, they've now replenished all their losses that they've taken.
With what?
Well, with draftees, and they have, in terms of manpower, and then they've taken because the Russian economy, once the sanctions and all that shit came in, the reason why they didn't work is because the Russian economy essentially gave everybody jobs, because now they're just building tanks. They're in a war economy state right now. So their economy is doing fairly well considering the sanctions against them, because they've just started remanufacturing all the tanks that they lost, weapons, ammo. Like they're just manufacturing all kinds of shit, and they're being given stuff. Like Iran's been giving them those Sahad drone fucking missile things. They've been sending them a shit ton of those, and they've been sending them, ammunition. North Korea's been sending them drones. They've been sending them artillery shells. They've been sending them a lot of equipment, and so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that, like I said before, in exchange for these things, Russia has given the Iranians whatever the final piece to the puzzle they needed was to enrich uranium to like 98% or whatever the fuck it is to make a nuclear weapon. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. And after they kicked out the nuclear inspectors, sometime last year, it was like in October or November of 2023, we had put out some statements saying that the IAEA and other agencies have anticipated that Iran was 7 days away from having a fully functional nuclear weapon. Now, I don't know how much of that's propaganda and how much of that's rhetoric to try to get something against them to stop them from doing that, or how much of it's actually true. Who the fuck knows? We'll never know the answer to that. Unless fucking Tel Aviv ends up turning into a mushroom cloud. I guess then we'll know the answer to that for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely that's the telltale sign, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I guess they did have nuclear weapons, because, yeah. So, Netanyahu had a meeting with the whole war cabinet and shit today, and they did discuss the very real possibility of conducting a preemptive strike against Iran in terms of a large-scale military action against Iran in anticipation of whatever this response is going to be. And they're saying that they don't have any intelligence that's indicating Iran is going to do a huge, massive attack. But I think the reason why they don't have intelligence saying that is because after this security failure that happened with this bombing of this what do you call it, that guy from Hamas inside Tehran, they purged a lot of high-ranking individuals that were potentially spies and again, when you get this situation from a despotic type regime such as is the Khamenei regime in Iran, when the purge happens, they get rid of anybody who's even slightly suspected of being a traitor or being an agent for the other side. And so you have this big purge. I think Israel just lost a major source of intelligence from within the Iranian government. And I'm sure there's others, but they might not be in positions to have all that much information now.
At this point, no.
And so now Israel kind of fucked themselves by doing this because now they're kind of working blind.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a very difficult decision they're going to have to make in the coming days as to if they want to. But the fact that they're talking about it and it's being publicized, that's also a very bad sign.
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, the conversations or even the words being spoken about war itself, it's like the more you say it, the more you believe it. That it already feels like it's tipping towar's that.
Like it's just going to be that. Like there's no other alternative now.
Because everybody has it in their mind that this is the only way that this is the only way this thing's going to turn into, or the only outcome that's, I don't know, that it's the only outcome people can think of. So it's basically written.
Yeah. There's also reports of Iranian militias supposedly bringing in like 6 truckloads of these advanced missiles from Iraq into Syria. And
from Iraq?
Yes, because they have to cross. That's how you go by land from Iran to Syria, is you got to go through Iraq. So,
oh, right, okay.
One of the things they were talking about is that, to me, it signals potentially that if Iran is going to do some massive missile attack, I think they may be gearing up to do some sort of land invasion, not with their troops, but with Hezbollah and Hamas again, and you have them conduct some sort of weird assault upon the border. And the Israelis have been skittish about this because they did increase their posture along their northern border with Syria. And like last night, it was their last night. I was just watching a live video cam of like the fucking Israeli border, and they were just popping flares every so often just to see if there's any assholes fucking coming across the border, because they kind of want to know, like, oh shit, like, is this coming? And it's very possible that could be a portion of this response, is another October 7th style land incursion, but of a major scale, and one that maybe lasts a little bit longer than that attack did. And then accompanied by a massive missile barrage, a missile assault. That would to me indicate that Israel, because Israel has said that they will respond in a major way if there is any sort of significant damage or casualties taken as a result of Iran's deal. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's going to be too much. I mean, I don't think this was the appropriate response. I already said it before, but to escalate to this with 1,400 deaths, or the number of deaths that have happened in addition to the people that have been kidnapped, man, well, now look what you invited yourself to with people just waiting at the borders to basically nip at Israel's borders north of them. I mean, shit, dude. Where does Iraq stand in all this? Because, I mean, we're not exactly allies with them either. We toppled their government, and they probably have warlords taking over the country itself. So are they neutral, or are they? I mean, if they were able to pass through Syria to get to Iran, I mean, if you were able to supply things through Iraq to get to Iran, then like where do they stand? Well,
it looks like it's already being allowed to happen. So it's kind of like clearly the Iraqi government's just kind of like, fuck, we're basically a third world country at this point anyway. Let's just fucking we're not gonna stop anybody, and we're not really gonna be able to help anybody. So let's just fucking stay out of it, I guess. It's probably what their role is. Also, another concerning document that got leaked was supposedly the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, sent out these memos to all the mayors within the northern kind of section of Israel. And it was this document basically advising them of the potential issues that could be happening when this thing happens. And they were basically advising them that they should advise their citizens to, stock up food and water, all that kind of stuff, and saying that essentially a power outage in the northern cities could last for 3 days or longer, that water cuts would last for days to weeks, interruption of landlines and mobile phone communications for 24 hours or longer. Also, short localized blackouts on radio and internet is being envisioned that this will likely happen. So it's basically letting everybody know, hey, you need to get prepared, have a stockpile of something, because in the coming days...
Are they just telling them to stay in place, or are they telling them to fuck off in some direction?
No, they're telling them basically to just stay, like shelter in place is going to be the best thing, I guess.
Conventional warfare would say that you can destroy... Fair game is like destroying warehouses, but like when it comes to civilians, you don't touch those, but... Knowing that there's going to be collateral damage, you can't really...
Here's the thing, though. This is not necessarily going to be conventional warfare, because Hezbollah is not a conventional warfare nation. They're a terrorist organization.
They're a guerrilla group.
Yeah, so they're going to be conducting warfare in a non-conventional manner.
Yeah.
And they're going to be going up against, yes, conventional forces in the IDF, but they're going to have the ability of essentially element of surprise and the ability to not have to have any... essential trigger discipline and just kill anything that moves that doesn't look like you. Anything that's dressed in a non-way of your guys, you can just shoot at it. Also, they don't have to worry about collateral damage because they're invading someone else's country. The Israelis don't have that same option. They have to be careful with what they do, because if you've got terrorists in some area, you can't just take out the house like they've been doing in Gaza, because you're going to be killing your own people now. And if you're going to enter into a sustained war, you cannot lose the will of your own people. You can lose the will of other nations' people. That's fine. But you cannot sustain a war against another power in the region if your own people are not going to be behind it, because you're killing them by accident, essentially. So the Israeli Defense Force is going to have to be very discerning with the targets that they defend against. And, Hezbollah has an advantage. The attacker has the advantage in this case, in terms of this potential invasion conflict of Hezbollah going into northern Israel. So, I don't know. It's going to be fucked either way.
Yeah. Didn't you mention there was a bill in Congress about the defense of Israel, something like that?
We basically, what's his name? Chuck Schumer, I think, is the guy. It wasn't him. It's the other guy. Not Strom Thurmond. Fuck. It's the other asshole Republican guy that's like the big fucking mouthpiece. He introduced a bill to
something
essentially, maybe essentially just to declare. Let me look it up real quick. Bill to go to war against Iran, but he basically introduced this bill. Lindsey Graham, that's the guy.
Oh, Lindsey Graham
from South Carolina.
Yeah.
He introduced this bill that essentially reads. This got released in. It was read twice and referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations. 7/31/2024 was when this got introduced. So just a few days ago, essentially. Basically, it's a resolution talking about how authorize the use of United States armed forces against the Islamic Republic of Iran for threatening the national security of the United States through the development of nuclear weapons. That's what it reads. That's the opening statement. Is to basically authorize the president to utilize the military to preemptively strike the Iranians.
I wonder if that's just more to put it on the table, get it passed, and then say that's what's... But then again, the president could do that already to begin with, couldn't he?
No, Congress can declare war. The president can do limited engagements, but it takes an act of Congress to actually declare a major war scale use of the United States military. Like, the president cannot solely do that. It's kind of like...
What about nuclear threats?
So the president has the to use our nuclear weapons offensively, the only person that can authorize it is the president of the United States.
But in this context, it wouldn't be offensive. It'd be defensive. It'd be an ally to the U.S.
It would be like if Biden just wanted to push the button and nuke Iran, he could do that without congressional approval. He has the sole authority as the commander in chief to utilize nuclear weapons. Congress can do nothing about that.
So then why are they running it through the?
Because we're not going to nuke Iran, we're going to use conventional warfare. In order to use essentially conventional forces, well, I should say, we're not going to open with nuking Iran. I don't know if we would, we're not going to launch nuclear missiles at them. If we were going to use nuclear weapons, it would be in a, like a bomb, like a gravity drop bomb. Because if you do nuclear weapons launching from here in the United States or wherever, that sets off China, that sets off Russia's things of like, oh shit, where are they launching these missiles to? And could potentially have them launch their missiles at us as a retaliation strike when we're not even attacking them. So if we were to use nukes in this manner, it would be gravity dropped bombs essentially. Because we did put B-52 nuclear bombers in Qatar, or B-2 stealth bombers in Qatar. All right, we did just send some there, and we have B-52 nuclear capable aircraft in Romania that we just sent as well for the for the Russia threat. So we have nuclear assets in the area presumably. So if it did come to it, and Iran did drop a nuke on, or let's say they shot a nuke missile at Israel. We would also likely respond with some gravity dropped nuclear bombs of our own.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that's going to get to that. I don't know if it's going to get to that. Nobody can fucking know. But these are things that are not out of the realm of possibility. So it's good to, I think, at least talk about them and say, hey, this is the possibility. But I don't think nuclear weapons are going to be used unless Israel is threatened with extinction. Then I do believe they will use them.
I mean, dude, it's hard to even imagine that happening again, because it happening once to begin with was already enough for people to be like, oh, holy shit, that is way too far.
Also, you have to remember the nuclear bombs that we dropped in, or the atomic bombs that we dropped in 1945 or whatever, those are magnitudes, hundreds of, maybe even thousands of magnitudes less powerful than what we have today.
Yeah.
So no one has seen the actual destructive power on a city to what modern nuclear weapons are capable of. We saw it, in Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. No, we saw the aftermath. You saw the pictures. There was stuff you could see tangible evidence of what that did to a city.
I was the house.
Yeah. I am the table. But we don't fucking have any idea what those things would do. I mean, you've seen the videos and shit of them blowing up shit in fucking the desert or whatever, but fuck, who knows, man?
Yeah. So I think as much as everybody hates each other, or whatever disdain exists amongst countries, I mean, we're going to get down to business at some point, but I think trying to stay away from a nuclear holocaust is on everybody's minds.
Yeah.
Because then that for sure is the end of humanity altogether.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So.
Definitely.
You got anything else to add for this particular episode?
That's pretty much it.
What about the Maduro shit?
I think you read more about that or saw more about that.
I just saw on the news that the protest, at this point, it's a persistence of the people that they don't believe that the elections were legitimate and that whatever candidate they selected was the one that should be president. But, Maduro continues to wipe out any opposing opinions and does that with an iron fist. Well, at least with the military and everything. Yeah.
Also, quickly, there are also massive race riots going on in fucking England regarding the
immigration
and the
it's the 1980s again, dude.
And basically
the National Front didn't want Pakistani people, didn't want Indian people. Yeah. We are once again at that junction, man.
Yeah, and it's Muslims this time in general is what it's being posed against. So that's also going to end poorly, I think. We got all these countries basically on the verge of either war with each other or civil war amongst themselves in some way.
It is rather strange that it's like I don't know how to phrase this, but it's something of a national identity crisis.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people from... I'm guessing a lot of these people are displaced from the years of ISIS basically pushing people west.
Yeah. That's what it seems like.
That the people that have been left over or migrated to Eastern European countries or even Western European countries that France might have been welcoming towards them in the beginning, but maybe citizens that live within France were like, fuck, man, that's a lot of that's a lot of mouths to feed. It's going to be a strain on the system and to the infrastructure of France itself. Sweden also got a lot of people from people being displaced from the Middle East and shit. It's kind of scary because it's like you are crossing that weird line between ethnic purity, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And, like, we don't want your kind here, but you're welcome to stay. But we also want France to be France because we're French and we speak this language. If we have you assholes showing up, you're gonna fuck with our population and our culture.
Yeah,
like it's a weird thing, dude.
And then you got all this going on. You throw in potentially a global financial crisis at the same time. Oh man,
it's a stewing pot of fucking shit.
Yeah. It's just boiling right now. It's getting ready to boil over, it seems.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right. I think that'll be it for this one. You got anything else?
No.
All right, cool. Well, shit. Stay tuned. Later on in the week, we do have an episode about the Maduro shit that's coming out. I think at the same time as this one. So, because I scheduled it for Monday, and I'm just gonna put this one out now, anyways, because fucking it happens. Anyways, all right, fuck it. Go to GameRageMagazine.com. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter /X at Game Rage Mag, YouTube at Game Rage Magazine. You can also go to All Gas No Trash Official for Adam, and you can follow and listen to the All Gas No Trash musical podcast. Anyways, that'll do it. Well, I mean, if we're not all nuked by fucking next week, I guess we'll be back to record more. Anyways, but that's it.
That was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter /X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.